I think Longines has been killing it lately. They've always been great with their heritage releases, but some of their modern, say like the Hydro Conquest GMT, some of their modern releases are so good that they're starting to rival Omega in terms of quality. I don't think they're quite there yet, but it kind of poses the question, can Longines catch Omega? And I'd like to ramble a little bit about that today. If we go to the Swatch Group's website, which owns both Omega and Longines, you can get a good sense of the hierarchy of the brands. This is the Swatch Group letting us know how they view their own brands. So at the top, we have Breguet, and then Harry Winston, then Blancpain, then Glashütte Original, and then Jaquette Rose, and then Omega, then Longines, and then so on and so forth. Rado, Union Glashütte, Tissot, Balmain, Certina, Mido, Hamilton, Swatch, and rounding out the bottom is Flick Flack, which I've never seen in person before. So this website, it really shows us the steps of the ladder, so to speak, on how the Swatch Group views the various brands that they control. And Longines is just under Omega, but should it be on the same tier, on the same playing field as Omega? Can the Swatch Group, can they really have two powerhouse luxury brands? I'd like to talk about the ins and outs of that today. But first, let me shout out the sponsor of today's video, Exquisite Timepieces. Exquisite is a family-owned AD in Florida. They carry both Omega and Longines, in addition to 60 other brands. They're an awesome AD. I've worked with them for years in reviewing watches that they carry. I've bought from them many times. So if you're shopping for a Longines, an Omega, or any of the other brands that they have, I recommend them, and a link is below. Now let's talk about the history of both of these brands. Omega has its roots in 1848, but the name Omega did not appear, at least publicly, until 1895. So this has quite a long-running history, and we all know some of the powerhouse models like the Seamaster, the Speedmaster, the Railmaster, the Globemaster. We know that they have some pretty amazing products that they've come out with over the well over 100 years that they've been viewed as Omega. If we switch over to Longines, Longines first appeared in 1832, with Longines first appearing publicly as the name of the group in 1867. So decades before Omega became really an established brand. And what's interesting, Longines has the oldest trademarked watch logo in the business, going back to 1867. And I love seeing the evolution of the winged hourglass logo. And really, history is the name of the game when it comes to Longines. That's what they really have an amazing history. We'll go through some of their highlights, but I think they excel with their heritage line in re-releasing some of these historic designs. I think that's the strength of Longines. So going to their firsts, in 1878, they did their first chronograph pocket watch. In 1908, they did their first 2 time zone pocket watch. So they're still, like most brands, focusing heavily on pocket watches in this period. 1911 is when they took their chronograph and made it one of their first wrist watches, and then they sized it down a couple years later for the first compact wristwatch chronograph at 29 millimeters, because pocket watches, they were pretty big. So to get that tech down to 29 millimeter wristwatch, that was kind of a big deal back then. In 1925, they had their first wristwatch with the second time zone. Also that year, their first independent pusher, so 2 pushers for a flyback chronograph. And then you go again to 1925. That was a big year for Longines. They did their first watch with an inner rotating dial. 1931 is their first wristwatch with an engraved rotating bezel, which we now see everywhere with dive watches, with GMT models. They were the first to do that in 1931. In 1936, they did their first flyback patent for a wristwatch. 1937 is the first truly waterproof chronograph. Really, I mean, they've got some great products going back decades and decades. In 1954, was the introduction of the Conquest line. This is the oldest product line for the brand. They're still doing it today. 1957, they introduced the flagship product family. They're still doing the flagship today. And in 1959, a little bit late to the game, they came out with their first diver, which we refer to today as the Legend diver. Just a great style with the inner rotating ring, the two different crowns set into the right-hand side of the case. I absolutely love this diver design. A couple years later was the Ultra Quartz, their first in-house quartz movement that debuted shortly after Seiko essentially publicly released a quartz movement. So it's interesting to see that Longines at the time was getting in on what was considered cutting-edge technology. So if we look through the decades, we can really see the evolution of Longines as a brand, how they've developed different firsts, how they've tried to be on the cutting edge of various technologies or complications or movement styles. I think, again, their strength is drawing on what they've done in the past. But not only that, some of their modern releases have just been phenomenal. I love the Hydro Conquest GMT. This is a true GMT, ceramic bezel insert, solid bracelet, quick adjustment clasp, comes in a number of different colors. It has a great size, it's comfortable, it's thin on the wrist. There's a lot going for a watch like this. At its retail price, I'm not sure what comes very close to this. It's really a powerful release. So here's the question. Could Longines catch Omega? I know we have the heritage here with this brand, but if they perhaps pulled back the number of offerings that they have and focused on a few families and increased various levels of quality, say how solid the bracelets are, or putting quick adjust clasps on everything, or maybe doing some exclusive movements. I know Omega gets movements from ETA, which is part of the Swatch Group. Longines could do the same thing. They could get exclusive calibers, and I know they get exclusive calibers from time to time, but they could have in-house movements with great finishing, lovely history. If Longines maybe upped the tactile experience of the bezel action, or maybe the winding or the crown action, in addition to really focusing on consolidating the model lines and coming out with powerful designs, both modern designs, and celebrating that rich history, I don't see why Longines couldn't be viewed as a Tiffany-level brand, as a powerhouse brand within the Swatch Group that rivals Omega. I know they don't do as much in precious metal. They're not working with exotic materials. They're not doing ultra high-end complications like the Chrono Chime. They're not developing their own alloy of stainless steel like Omega is. So it would take probably, 10 or 20 years of dedicated hard work. But one could argue that Longines could be on the level of Omega, and should they? I know that this is or at least I assume that this is deliberate action on the part of the Swatch Group. They don't want to cannibalize sales from Omega by pushing them to Longines, but if you differentiated the brands enough, maybe Omega focuses more on the contemporary. I know they still do a lot of great heritage releases. And then Longines, on the other hand, maybe they focus more on the heritage and still do some great contemporary releases. You could create some sort of division between the two to where you're not necessarily cannibalizing too many of the same customers, but you're adding customers to the pool that are buying your products or your brand products for the Swatch Group. So the question is, do you think Longines can catch Omega? Do you think it's a good business decision? Personal opinion, I don't think we'll see it. I think the Swatch Group has placed Longines where they are deliberately, and they don't want to take them to the next level, even though I think there's a case to be made that they could. Again, some of their products right now, they are rivaling Omega in terms of quality. I don't think they're quite there. I think Longines is primarily competing with a brand like Tudor, but I'm not sure that they're even at Tudor's level at the moment. So I think Longines has the biggest capacity for expansion and growth within the watch market. I think it could be the most exciting brand to see what happens in the next 20 years, 30 years. So tell me your thoughts below. I hope you enjoyed this casual watch ramble. If you're shopping Longines, if you're shopping Omega, definitely check out Exquisite. I've linked them below. You're welcome to name drop me, say Bruce sent you. I've put my own sales associate's contact information below. If you appreciated this video, please hit like, please subscribe for more content like this. I've got a lot of great stuff that I've been working on, and I'd love to share it with you. Thanks.